live. You are going live in seconds, and you're live.
Hi. Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining me. This is our third night. We're working out the kinks, and I want to thank you for being so patient. Um, so it's Friday night, and we'll come back Monday, um, August the 9th at 11 p.m. And tonight, you're going to see my head bend a lot because I'm actually reading from the book. I don't have a draft up. So this is Return. It's the first book of the 10-book Walkerville series, Walkerville Desire series, and the protagonists are a couple named Francis and Fiona. And Francis showed himself to me and said, it's like, I'm a Burberry model. I'm going to retire soon. It's like, oh, okay. I'd never really thought about male models, so I did some research on that. And then Fiona showed up a few days later and said, I'm Fiona Montrose. And I said, okay. And then later I learned that Francis is the boy from the wrong side of the tracks, right? He's from a poor family. His mother was the first post post office mistress in Walkerville. And Fiona's family is, she's part of the Montrose family. She lives on the big house on the hill. And so they've both moved back to Walkerville, and they run into each other. And so this is a little bit about them getting to know each other. Her brown eyes sparked with curiosity. Tell me how you came to be a Burberry model. Stroking her arm, he sighed slowly, as if this was a question he was always asked. She heard his sigh and apologized quickly. I'm sorry. You must get asked that question all the time. I wish I could have asked you something more original. He shook his head, getting up to clear the table. No, I'm glad you asked that question. When I hear you ask it, the quality's different. Like you really want to know. Yes, I really would. Her brilliant smile matched her curiosity, and surprising herself, she added, I want to know who you are. Leaning against the sink, he stood, arms propped at his sides, obliging her. Ma kept telling me that if I didn't go to college, she wanted me out of the house, out of Walkerville, where she was afraid I'd get lost and buried in a dead-end life. You know how that can be. We both got friends whose heyday was being the best football player or the prom queen. Ma didn't want that for me, he whispered more to himself. He eyed Fiona, who was listening intently. One of Ma's cousins has a son who worked at the bar at the Lakeside Golf Club in San Francisco. We were never really close, but Stan said he'd be happy to put in a word with his boss. They were always looking for temporary help. His blue eyes became unfocused, conjuring a memory. It was almost the end of the season. I came into work one Sunday afternoon, and my manager told me that a group of people had specifically asked me to clear a table for them. I was as surprised as my manager was. I was just a busboy. No one paid any attention to us. I was nervous when I got to the table. I wanted to do my best since they did ask for me. No one said anything as I started. They just watched me like I was a science project. There were 2 women and a man at the table. One of the women was a scout for Burberry. She was visiting with a friend in San Francisco. I guess they normally recruited models in England. I didn't realize she'd been coming to the club for a few days just to watch me. That evening she came in with her friend and a guy who actually came in from London to look at me. Francis sat down to finish his story. They were surprised to find me. I'm one of the only models who wasn't British. Anyway, the guy interviewed me. I wasn't quite sure what Burberry was. I had to do some research, and 2 weeks later, I'm in London, and I've been incredibly lucky with my career. Right now, he continued, Burberry's doing a campaign using older models. That would be me. Normally, models are obsolete at my age. I'll be doing this for a bit longer than retire. Like I told you, I try to keep a good head on and not get too hung up on what I do for a living. I'm considering coming back here permanently. He didn't want to add that it was because of her that he was considering coming back to Walkerville. He grinned. Now, your turn. What are you doing working at a homeless shelter? Shrugging her shoulders, she said, I guess I'm sort of like you. Josie challenged me to leave Walkerville. She said I was wasting my time here. I'd gotten my BA in English Lit, so there wasn't any jobs for me. I was hanging out with Josie and a couple of friends, and one of them was home visiting from her school in Resolute Rock. She's the one who mentioned the shelter, so I started asking questions and ended up there a month later. I volunteered at first, since it was just starting up and there was no funding for anyone, including Bill, the director. One thing led to another, and within 6 months and a couple of grants later, Bill's a very convincing grant writer, there was a budget for 2 full-time staff, me and Bill. I feel the work is important and the clients inspire me. Do you think you'll stay there for a while? Frances asked. Don't know. Sometimes I feel out of place, like I don't really belong. Then I wonder if that's just my head talking to me, she responded honestly. Resuming her story, she said, I'd like to help Mother figure out the whole business of berries versus apple orchards. She really doesn't do high finances, and neither do I, but I can do some research for her, talk with some people I trust, starting with Gordon. She stopped when Francis raised a finger, his head turned towards Madeline's bedroom door. Hypersensitive to the sound emanating from there, he said, Excuse me, and quickly rushed to his mother. So that's all I'll be reading from that part. So then, time goes on, their romance blossoms, and then something happens, which is what, kind of formulaic in romance novels. And Frances inadvertently hurts Fiona, and she runs away back to the homeless shelter where she's been taking a 6-month leave of absence. So Fiona's talking with a Bill about her being back. There was money in the budget for another full-time staff, and the rent would not be increased anytime soon. With this good news, Bill told Fiona that she really was not expected to stay on. Laughing wryly, she asked, Are you trying to get rid of me? I'm glad there are more volunteers and you can hire someone. That means you can get some rest, and kudos to you for being so proactive about the grants. She knew she was only here temporarily. She just needed a place to regroup, right? The stability of the shelter was dependent on the staff, and right now it was currently Bill and Ella, who was the poster child for showing how the system worked. Ella had evolved from resident to volunteer to staff in less than 18 months. With a 9th grade education, striving for her GED, and low on people skills, Ella was scared. She may have been a little rough around the edges. However, she had an intuitive sense about her that could not be taught. She knew that the person who came back to the shelter, Fiona, was different. She was more serious, lacking the twinkle in her eye that noted everything and was curious about everyone. Fiona seemed crushed, like she'd been heartbroken or profoundly disappointed. Feelings Ella had never felt from Fiona. Fiona was Ella's role model. It was she who taught a highly emotional, volatile Ella the importance of communication in a way that was respectful of herself and others. To begin with I statements, to listen with her heart as well as her ears with compassion and openness. So heart thundering in her chest, Ella followed Fiona into the walk-in as she took inventory of the dairy products for the weekly shopping expedition. Fiona smiled distractedly. "Hey, Ella, how are you?" Grunting a greeting, Ella, cold, leaned against the stainless steel shelves in the walk-in. Fiona was wearing a sweatshirt, and Ella wished that she'd worn hers. "Hey, do you think we could talk sometime?" Ella asked casually, noting the lack of curiosity normally present in Fiona's eyes. Fiona asked, "What about?" Ella took a deep breath, folded her arms across her chest to keep warm and for protection. "About this," she said, pointing to Fiona and including the walk-in. Fiona put down the clipboard, holding it against her thigh with one hand, the other hand clenched. Ella grumbled, "I'm freezing my ass in here. I don't have a sweatshirt on. Do you think we can go outside and maybe grab a cup of coffee?" Fiona challenged, "Can it wait? I've got to do this inventory for the food run tomorrow." Exasperated, Ella retorted, "You are the one who taught me to ask me for what I want. That it's okay for me to ask questions, to be curious. You said that curiosity goes a long way to maintain my self-esteem. I need to maintain my self-esteem, so no, it can't wait. I want to talk with you right now." With grudging respect, Fiona mumbled, "I taught you that, huh?" And that's it. 2 pieces from Return. The first book of, let's see, we've got 8, is it 7? We've got 7 books out. We're working on the 8th one. I read a little bit from book 6, and I'm just kind of jumping around to, from, like where my heart leads me, what book to read from, what to talk about. If you've got any questions that you want me to address about my writing process or my characters or anything, I guess you can shoot me an email at ykwrites@gmail.com. Is that the email address?
YKMWrites.
YKMWrites@gmail.com. And you can also shoot me a Facebook message. So I want to thank you for showing up. Like I said in my original email, this pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I kind of got to tell you, I sort of like being here. So thank you all, and I will see you on Monday. Oh, done?
Good. Sorry you have to tell it twice. It clicked.